So, tonight we're going to look at the importance of confidence in Aikido. Piers, can I actually make you a co-host, so if I miss anybody coming in, you can admit them? Just because while I'm talking, it's hard to watch the screen as well. Hang on just a second. Did you hear that, Piers?
Yeah.
Yeah, good, cool. Okay. So just keep your eye if you can. If I miss them, you can join them.
No problem.
Great. So we're going to look at the importance of confidence in Aikido. When we deal with any word like this, I always like to start with a definition. So anyone care to start with a definition of what confidence means?
Sorry, my sound went then. Did you ask us for the definition?
I asked people to offer a definition, yeah, as a starting place. Then I'll tell you what the dictionary actually says.
I would say com as in with, and fidele is faith. So with faith in yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense for you as a definition? That is the correct route. Linda, please.
It's to have faith in your own ability.
Go on, Linda.
Yeah, that actually sounds a lot like what came to my mind at first, which is a willingness to try.
Yeah.
Like, I might not be right, but let's give it a shot. Which sounds like coming in faith. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the feeling or belief that you can have faith or rely on someone or something, or presumably yourself, your own abilities. So that works for me, that you think you've got enough knowledge, ability, whatever it is, to take on the tasks that you're about to undertake, and there's a high probability that you're going to succeed at it. Does that seem like a fair definition from people's standpoint? No. Paul isn't sure.
I know why you define it that way. I would define confidence as the ability to act in a situation without disturbing your breathing, your posture, your balance.
I think that would be a result of that inner faith that you're going to succeed. So I absolutely take on board what you say, but I think it's a result rather than a definition.
I think it's the feeling as a result of what you do in your body. Remember the seven dwarfs? If you whistle and behave that way, your feelings line up with what you're doing in your body.
Okay, but I would say it's a two-way program. Body affects mind and mind affects body. And I think this is a case where confidence affects how you feel in your body rather than coming from the body.
I'm going to say one last thing, then I'll shut up and behave. I think the mind and the body are identically the same gadget. It just depends on which language level you want to use. So I don't think the chicken comes before the French fries or vice versa. They are there at the same time because they're the same thing, but you can speak about them in different ways.
I will buy that, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're using linguistics to describe what's going on here. And I think it's valid to have both sides of that coin. So that's great. We've got a good working definition.
Sorry, Quentin, I wanted to ask a clarification. Are we talking about confidence or self-confidence? Because we can have confidence in another person. We can have confidence in our partner.
Okay.
In Aikido. So are we talking about confidence in general or self-confidence?
It's a reasonable point to make. We're talking about just confidence at this point in time. So you're right. I might have confidence in the system. I might have confidence in others. I might have confidence in my teacher, but have absolutely no confidence in my own ability to do much. Self-confidence is maybe where we're coming from in terms of our Aikido development. If we don't have self-confidence, well, where does that lead? So that's a good question to ask. What happens if we're not confident?
Because in Aikido, the question is always that arises is confidence to your partner. Do we trust our partner?
Wonderful. Okay, so you've opened it up to a third level. In our practice, we not only have to be self-confident, but we have to be confident in our partner that when we entrust them with our body,
Yeah,
we're not going to abuse that trust.
exactly. Yeah.
So which one would you like to tackle first? Because we need them both.
I think both self-confidence and confidence to the other person is very important.
Yes. So which one should we tackle first? Which comes
Okay.
first?
I think self-confidence comes first.
Okay. What do others think? Linda?
For me, confidence in the system comes first, in the whole environment, like in the school or in the practice.
Right.
Like at least on the level of not like I know this is right, but on the level of the willing to give it a try.
Right.
That I have faith in this thing we're doing.
Right.
So I'm willing to jump into it.
Okay. So that's what made you walk through the door. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So let's
After
start
reading
with that
several
because,
books and asking a lot of people.
well, okay,
It wasn't blind confidence, but I developed the confidence in it to go, I can trust this.
Okay, well, you kind of self-answered the question I was about to ask, because I think you're right. That is the starting point, because we can talk about Aikido training all you like, but unless we get people walking through the door, they never get to benefit from that. So how do we, and you did partially answer it, but let's open it up to others. How do we build up the confidence to decide that we're going to walk through the door and give Aikido a try? What do we need to know to give us that faith in the system that makes us want to trust them with our body?
Can I slightly not answer that question?
Hugh, that is the way you usually go, so fine.
And so just turn it around a bit. I mean, I think what is also interesting, because a lot of the definitions have been about self-confidence,
Right.
and we all know what that is. In do we have the feeling? Don't we have the feeling? What I think is also interesting is how do other people view or measure confidence in another person? So you sometimes can look at somebody and say, well, they're very confident. They might not be doing anything, which I think comes back to Paul's point. Their posture can create a feeling of confidence which other people see and notice. So I'm just interested, really, as a question, when you're looking at somebody else, how do you measure confidence?
I think it's a good question, and as a teacher, it's something I think that as people walk through the door, it's one of those things that you're subconsciously assessing where they are on that sort of level, and how gentle you're going to have to be with them in terms of taking them down this road. And I guess it would be looking at things like posture and how they engage with you in when they're communicating, and how open they are, and when you ask them a question. I think it's important.
So my point then, to add to your comment, is that you may then be a better judge of confidence of that person than they are.
Yes, but it's a subjective judgment, and of course you're sometimes wrong, because sometimes people are incredibly good at putting on a good mask, and underneath that they're in bits. So it's just a starting point, and then you're testing along the way to see if what you're sensing is actually real. You're using an evidence base, but when you're training with them, even then, there are anyone who's taught here, I'm sure, will say, some students open up to you straight away, and you kind of know their lives right from the beginning, and others, it may take years before they suddenly say, well, by the way, I was abused when I was a child, or something like that. So, you knew there was a missing piece, but they seemed fine on the surface, but actually underneath it, there was something quite broken that needed to be fixed. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule there. But I'm going to bring us back a step and just take us back to that. What is it that we can do to build confidence in students to walk into our dojos? Because I do think that's a good starting place.
You mean, are we building confidence before they walk into the dojo so that in some way we've reached them before they've come to us so they can get enough confidence to come?
I think very few people will literally see a sign on the door and just walk through and say, well, I wonder how this goes. So what is it that we as Dojo Cho do to send a message out there that might appeal to people and build their confidence and give them a desire to try?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Liz.
Oh, hi. Just a quick comment. I was thinking, going right back to the very beginning, when I first started training in any art, and I was 17 years old, and I saw an advertisement for a karate class.
Yep.
And I'd never done anything like this before. And I finally sort of summoned the courage to ring the teacher and ask about the class. And this, for me, was terrifying. It's the first time I'd ever spoken to a martial artist. Utterly terrifying experience, you know. And he was so friendly. He was interested in me, and he got me chatting about anything and everything, got out of me the fact that I loved riding horses and so on, spent a full half an hour on the phone with me, chatting away, at which point I felt that his club was approachable.
Yeah.
If he just said, yeah, turn up at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays, I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm going to self-answer the question. I think, I put a great deal of time into what I put on my website, the messages I give there about what I'm trying to create. I do that with the words I use. I will post photos. So there's a little bit of kind of the Instagram approach of look at happy smiling faces and, lots of women, lots of children, lots of old people, just showing the mix within the club. And posting videos of how I teach, etc., etc. So they've got a fair idea of what they're getting into before they arrive. And I think more and more these days, people expect you to give that information. And if they can't get it, they're much less inclined to come in the first place. Okay, so we've got a brand new student who's walked through the door. That's you. Take yourselves back to that day, the first time you ever walked onto the mat. There's going to have been an element of nerves there, got to have been a level of anxiety. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. So did you feel confident then?
I was confident I'd walk off the mat, but when I walked on, I was a combination of nerves and ignorance.
Right.
I really had no idea what I was letting myself in for. In those days, we didn't have websites.
Right. Yeah, well, in those days, for a good few of us here, I feel. So did anyone feel any different to the way that Alec felt?
Yes, I didn't. As I recall, I didn't feel much of anything. I'd seen a film of O-sensei. Something in me said, I want to do that. I didn't know why. I showed up and I didn't know I was allowed to try it. I just stepped on the mat and never stopped. I was probably confused. The only thing I really remember clearly, the first class, they were doing Shionage Ura, and everybody said, no, the other left foot, Paul, the other left foot. But I don't recall that I felt anything other than just, I don't know, I was lost, but I don't know that I felt anything.
Okay, well, yeah, Joanna, please. Just unmute yourself.
Sorry. The first time I saw Aikido, it was a demonstration. I was in a seminar of like corporation stuff, and my sensei went there. It was in his father's company, and he did a demonstration with another shodan. And I watched that, and before them, they showed like a video. It was a river, the water passing through the rocks and stuff. And then I watched that. Their demonstration was like a dancing thing. It was very beautiful. And I watched that. I immediately I said, I want to do that. I have no idea what was that about, but I want to do that. And then we started talking, and then we gathered a group. It was in his father company. So it was kind of a more safety Aikido, because they have these employees policies. Nobody could be hurt anyway. So it started in this realm. It's kind of, okay, everybody was supposed to practice Aikido, but they were kind of, they were the employees of the company. They couldn't be hurt, and it was very careful. So by the time I started going to seminars, I said, okay, this is not about this caring thing. I need to be more aware of what is going on about other people, because we were in a very protective environment. And how was I opening myself to other practices and other dojos? Then we keep changing from one dojo to another. But connecting this to other new students that we had just like one student that she came from Facebook. I don't know what I want to do with myself. I want to do some exercise. Let me see, what do I have close to my job? And then she found our dojo. And she had no idea what was that about. Other people just came from other martial arts. But I don't know actually what is about the environment or the group, or what is the energy that people feel when they get inside. It's not about our sensei or stuff, but they get inside and what makes them stay.
So is your point that actually in your experience, when people come to the mat, it's quite a variety of feelings? You were excited. Some others who have done other martial arts, maybe they're not nervous at all. They're just intrigued or curious, or they're wanting to carry on their journey in a different way. Others, they are fearful.
Yeah, but I think it's a mixture. It's the energy of the environment that makes people say, I'm not sure what is that, what's the word for that, what happened, but it's really different people, different stories. People stopped for a while, get back. I don't know. That's kind of a magical or mystery. I don't know what is that.
Well, I think you're making a really good point. I mean, people are on a spectrum, aren't they? So some people come and they're very nervous, and some people less so, and some people are excited. So they come with a range of emotions. Okay, so we're practicing the peers. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, I had to reboot because the sound kept on going. It was really frustrating. But I remember going the first time to Neil O'Dwyer's. It was a weekend course. And I was looking for a martial art. And I'd gone to Richard's Taekwondo club, or Aikido, some martial art. And walking on, I was intrigued, curious, and excited to find a replacement for rugby. I don't think I was nervous. I was just, I was 27, 28, and I was looking for the next physical experience, which and as people have said, in those days, I replied to an advert in Time Out. I mean, it was a 3-line advert, come and do a weekend course, and that was it.
All right, times have moved on, haven't they?
They have a bit.
Okay, so I think it's a point really well made. There's a range of emotions when people first step onto that. So that first time someone grabs your wrist and you're supposed to copy what the teacher's just shown you, how confident are you all feeling then?
Not nearly so much.
Not nearly so much.
That's right. I mean, my recollection of that moment was looking around to see what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
My recollection may be faulty, but
well, every time you're shown a new move, I bet you revert to that. You're looking around the room saying, where did he put his feet? Where did they put their hands? Just to get a grip on it. Yeah.
Can I just add to that, Quentin? Because that's very much my experience, and it was looking at the other students and the Q grades. And when we started teaching Aikido, we learned very quickly that the Q grades were our best recruiting sergeants. And I think because they make it look doable. If people come on a mat and it's a whole bunch of Dan grades, and it's actually can be off-putting.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you're making another nice point, actually, that if you walked into a club and it was all black belts, that would be intimidating, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you're kind of pointing to a scale of development here. David.
Hello, good evening. Just like to question the direction of the argument in terms of confidence in what. So I'll give you an analogy from today. I've been playing golf today. I was confident I would get on the golf course. I was confident I could carry the bag. I was confident I could walk for 18 holes. I was confident that when I put the ball on the tee, the ball would stay there. I was confident when I probably swung a driver, I would hit the ball. When I got on the greens, I had no confidence at all in the ability for me to put the ball in the hole with a putter.
Sure.
So confidence is, and going back to Paul's original thing, is something to do with, or on the coming back in terms of activity. So you may not necessarily be confident in all aspects of any particular thing, but would I say I was confident to play golf? Probably not, but I'm capable of doing lots of things in relation to the golf course. And similarly in Aikido, it would be much the same. So I'm not too sure whether, where confidence fits in. Is it specific to an individual task, a overall feeling? And this goes back to that scale thing you're talking about. So there's a different thing. Although you might look at someone and say, yes, they look self-confident, or they look confident, or their confidence is increasing. You can sometimes sense that or see that. But is it more specific to a particular confident I can do? I can do, Ayami Kata-Tori techniques. I'm confident I could do Randori, but maybe I'm not confident I can do kata or play with a stick.
Okay, so you went through a long list of things that as you approached the golf course and actually was on the golf course that you were confident in. And what was it that gave you the confidence?
Past experience, past knowledge.
Exactly. So past experience. And if you're not confident in your putting, because maybe you don't spend but if you were to go on a green for 5 hours a day and putt, do you think you might get better confidence then?
If you putted right.
Only, well, not because I was on the practice putting green. It was absolutely perfect. I put every ball in the hole. On the green in the competition, different. So it changes. So it would need to be under certain circumstances and certain conditions will determine your confidence in or ability. Okay, well, maybe it's difference between confidence and ability is something different, I guess.
So would we build your confidence if when you're on that practice screen that you putt so easily? I said, okay, if you pop this in the hole, you get 10p. If you don't, I get 10p. If we upped the odds a bit,
I would make it worse.
Right, it would make it worse, wouldn't it? But you'd get used to that because 10p would be an acceptable raise of the stakes, perhaps. And then we could keep upping the ante, and then we could put you on the course. We would find a way of teaching you how to putt with confidence just through experience, because you'd get used to the pressure that you were being put under, the self-imposed pressure as well as the pressure that somebody else was putting you under.
I think there's a very different way of teaching. You can start with the confidence and teach people to open their bodies, be grounded and centered, no matter what the situation is, and then they'll do better and learn more quickly than if they have to grow through experience. Because after all, you can't practice correctly. If you do it correctly, you wouldn't need to practice. So you have to start by doing something wrong and gradually whittle it away.
Exactly. And when people first step on the mat, it's quite likely they're doing it wrong.
Of course.
When they do that first move, they bog it up, and then you teach them something like centering, and then they try it again and they're better at it. So
yes.
There you go. There's your first step.
Right.
You teach them to center when the pressure increases.
Yes.
Quentin?
Yes, Hugh.
This morning I was listening to a radio program on the World Service, and it took place in a mixed martial arts dojo, specifically a class for women. And the number one reason why many of the students who were interviewed had come to join and learn in this particular environment was confidence. It was, they were lacking in confidence, and they thought that by engaging in this activity, they would grow in confidence. So that was the number one reason. They came looking to learn and receive confidence.
So as you
and
said,
it's just worth mentioning. Sorry?
I was just saying, as you said that, there were lots of nodding heads. So I think we all, generally we agree that, yes, that is a major benefit of doing any martial art, but certainly it's of Aikido as well. Did you want to finish?
And you would like this because they also, so was it confidence to do the martial art? No, it was to build their confidence for everyday life.
Indeed, I would. So
the second, if I could just quickly say, because you just added a new dimension in what you said previously about somebody grabbing hold of you. The other two things that these women students mentioned after number one being confidence, two was fun. They were looking for fun. They were looking to be in an atmosphere and an environment where they could enjoy themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing, which I think is extremely important, certainly through the evidence I've had of teaching younger students, I mean school grade students, on a one-off basis, is touch. So in our, I mean, for many of the older generation, we hear a lot about old sporting activities like rugby, or in my case, cricket or whatever. Today, there are far few younger people doing team sports and physical interaction. So a lot of the younger people who are coming into this feel very uncomfortable about somebody, particularly a stranger, grabbing hold of them, or indeed them having to grab hold of a stranger. So this issue of touch is I think very important, and is not well taught actually to beginners. You say, well, this is it, get on with it. Somebody's going to grab you, you grab them, this is what you do. And this interview was with women, but I know it can apply to men equally, that they're just not used to people touching them. And I think that's a very important point linked to the confidence aspect.
So let me ask you a question to everybody that springs from that. Why do you think it was that these ladies thought that by practicing a martial art, and we can use Aikido for that if you want, they thought that when they practiced Aikido stroke martial art, they would grow in confidence? What is it about that aspect of what we do that people might think it would help them grow in confidence?
Because I think people have fear in their daily lives, and the fear is that it's the ultimate fear of being attacked. And they think subconsciously that if they know how to fight back or defend themselves, that will protect them against that fear.
So they feel in being able to defend themselves physically, is it too much of a leap to say that they feel able to sort of stand up for themselves emotionally as well?
Yeah, I think so, absolutely.
Quentin and Piers, I absolutely agree with that, because thinking back to that very first conversation I had to join that karate club, I was 17, and the reason I made the call is I'd seen the advert and I'd realised that I was scared to walk down the street by myself after dark.
Right.
And I couldn't live like that.
Yeah, excellent. Linda, did you want to say something?
Sorry, yeah, that was the very reason I came to Aikido was, you could say to build confidence, but the way I put it was to be able to stay calm in the face of physical threat and take effective action. Yeah. And with me, the context for that was horsemanship. I had a very large horse that he was a sweet guy, but things got a little Western now and then. And it was a horsemanship instructor who suggested I take Aikido because I needed that we're going this way at this speed, by God, you're with me kind of confidence. Not at all confidence of being attacked. The guy was like a 1,600-pound black lab puppy, but dangerous in that way. And so for me, it was between Aikido and Systema. And the specific thing I was looking for that I knew both offered, and that Systema actually offers in a more organized way, is progressive confrontation with threatening stimulus and learning to stay calm in the face of that and work with it. Yeah. So it had nothing to do with self-defense, fear of being attacked, none of that. It was really looking for the embodied sense of like, everything's a little too much and you can't go, oh God, no, right? You have to. So that's what I was looking for. But the thing that Aikido offered, which was to your point of, what are we offering, it was that, and Systema, was that progressive, you know, you only go as far as you can go and stay calm.
Okay.
And if that's only like, I draw back and threaten to hit you, and now you're like, we work at that level. And, you know, then we work up to Randori, but
Sure.
in little bits.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Quentin, one of the things I said, you know, you said you related it to women. That was one of the reasons why I started. I wanted to be able to defend myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon, you've been very quiet. I'm kind of interested in what you've got to say.
To which question would you like me to speak?
Hey, Brandon.
What speaks to you so far?
I had a different experience of entering Aikido. It didn't feel, I was a performer by trade at the time, so I didn't feel much trepidation, just a lot of excitement and wanting to go, go, go. I had to actually hold myself back a bit. And then I found Aikido after a judo class that was sort of blood on the walls, Japanese Olympic judo, and I thought, whoa, maybe not. And then the Aikido instructor came in and I was like, that. So it was good. I think people experience a rise in confidence. They think that they're going in to be able to defend themselves, and then that maybe that they discover that self-defense is a little different, is a slightly different project than they imagined. And then they, through repetition of, I don't know if I can do that. Oh, hey, I can. I don't know if I can do that. Oh, hey, I can. That repetition is what changes their somatic experience to one of potential confident response to anything, just because they've had so many repetitions of learning to have confidence in their own capacity. But inflected with the experience of learning how easily one is hurt, how difficult it really is to be subtle and actually be effective, especially if they've cross-trained and have other experience in a place where someone will gleefully hit them in the face if given the opportunity.
Beautifully said. You actually took some of the words out of my own mouth, because I was thinking as Linda was talking that you know, she came to improve her horsemanship and then found all this other stuff and all the other ways in which it impacted on her life, which I think is what you just said, really. You can come, whatever your reason is for turning up, very often you find it goes off in a different direction once you get there, or you get loads of other benefits, even if it, you know, you're still happy with your original goal.
Yeah, but I just, it's actually not been my experience that the benefits that are suggested by Aikido one is able to deploy them under pressure in the real world, unless one practices that as well, which is very seldom practiced in Aikido dojos. That's in large part why I do what I do, is that I don't find that the confidence, character, things that you're supposed to get from practicing martial artists, they're implied for sure, and they're talked about a lot. But unless you practice those in the same way that you practice your physical Aikido, you aren't able to deploy them in the real world under other circumstances, unless practice is the only way to get to do it.
Yeah, I think really well made point. Thank you. I knew I'd be good if I came to you. So I think one of the things that's coming out of this as a common theme is that we gain confidence by taking on a challenge and stretching ourselves a little bit beyond where we are. And then we're starting a journey, aren't we? Because, you know, we want to, as we push our boundary this far, we can then take it that far, and then that far, and that far, and so on and so forth. And over that incremental change over time is what changes us and leads towards confidence. So as a statement, does that seem fair to people, or has anyone got a contrary view they want to put forward?
100% with you.
That's good. I didn't make an ass of myself for once.
Finn wants to say something, Quentin.
Finn, please do.
Just a lot of the threads that people have discussed already, but drawing those together about the path and the teacher being somebody who's walked the path before. So having that social aspect of seeing yourself in somebody else's example, but also back to the lower grades as well. It's something that's too daunting for a beginner to be able to see themselves in.
Yeah.
But to be able to sort of see those stepping stones, the path of the grading system is perhaps helpful there, because you can see that the steps are achievable through following this path.
Yeah, and I like the idea of a path because it shows you that it's a continuous journey. You can't just end up at the end place without having walked along the path.
And also the social aspect, you can have confidence in your own abilities in nature perhaps, but thinking more of a social aspect, to have confidence in any sort of social encounter, whether that's a fight or any other kind of social encounter, you need to have, it's a different kind of confidence, but that comes through experience as well.
Okay. So if we were doing a verbal stretch, one of the verbal stretches.
Sorry, Quentin. I was going to challenge. So I'm just going to challenge you on your comment there. So you're saying that you have confidence, but you want to improve a skill or a discipline or something, and that's a necessary. It might be a part of development, but in some ways, what's that got to do with confidence? You will get more you will get maybe more confident in a particular skill by challenging yourself and doing it harder, but you don't need to. Do you need to develop to retain confidence, or you can have confidence in the skill at any particular level, and there's no desire to move forward in it? You could just stay where you are.
Sure.
You don't have to have a path.
I could. So maybe I could be a carpenter, and I could practice my skills at carpentry and develop those and become very, as you were saying in your golf example, become very confident in my ability to make tables and chairs, etc., but be completely socially inept. I think there's something about Aikido that, and other martial arts, and no doubt other paths as well, that can encourage not only confidence in the skill that you're developing on the mat, but also in the wider context. I think it comes back to what Piers said, and I'm happy for people to challenge me and take a contrary view, but I think we're taking on something that is very fearful. Being attacked physically is usually the worst thing for most of us. And if we're prepared to take on that demon, it gives us a lot of confidence in stuff that seems a lot smaller than that. So we're not only confident that we can do Ikkyo now, but we're confident that we can stand our ground physically and emotionally when confronted with difficulties. So I come back to what Brandon said, just because you learn to do it physically doesn't mean to say you develop those emotional skills, unless that's talked about and practiced in the dojo as well. You know, that context has to be thought about. Finn, did you have your hand up again? You did.
By that confidence, I'm becoming more confident in my ability to do techniques, or less so in the last 6 months, but less confident in my ability to respond in the moment, because every time we do practice randori or doing something out with form, I freeze up, so I don't have that confidence, and that certainly would be good to practice more, I think.
Yeah, but interestingly, I mean, we've been seeing you turn up to these sessions for 3 or 4 months, and I would say your confidence to contribute to the sessions has grown considerably.
Quentin,
Liz, can I just bring in Vitaly, because he had his hand up first, and then I'll come back to you.
I just wanted to add that, especially thinking about special needs population, because we are already physically challenged. So I would like to say that building out the confidence of we're bringing can-do philosophy to them, so they can do something else, because they come, they will into dojo, they're not confident to come even. We have to use different levels of confidence to prove that they can do something, at least something, and to come into the idea to come into the mind that when they see the practice, they don't think they can do that at all. But we have to prove them that they can do that, and at least try. Yeah. And then little by little, we build it up.
Yeah, so just so people know, Vitaly suffers from MS and spends a lot of his time, if not all of it, in a wheelchair. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So, and he's helping build, making Aikido more inclusive. He's building a group to sort of make sure that people who have different abilities are included, and we accommodate them, because we're all somewhere on that spectrum, aren't we? We come with, maybe we may have a good body but lousy confidence in emotionally and in relationships, or it could be And Vitaly, I can tell you, I've talked with him a lot. He's got great confidence on a one-to-one basis personally, but you know, the physical work is probably more challenging, and he's taking that on. So we're all somewhere on that scale. Okay, so coming back to if I do verbal Aikido, and we do various stretches of words, and it's quite interesting. So I think what we've done is we've had a really good, thorough examination of what confidence is. One of the questions my verbal Aikido teacher would say to me is, well, what's beyond that? What's this? What does confidence lead to? So I'm opening that question up to you. What does confidence lead to?
Quentin, that sort of leads into what I was going to say.
Yeah, I knew that, Liz.
Of course, we're so in tune. It's so in tune. But starting to practice, I found the same process when I was learning karate originally, and then Aikido, which is that you start learning some techniques, and so you build confidence in quite a slow and incremental way. Yeah, and if you were really challenged at that point, you know, there is a danger that you would crumble under pressure. But there's a point in the learning when you start to get beyond technique, and it starts to happen early when the training starts to power up what I call the underlying operational system. So, you know, like karate, we start off, it seems like a series of disconnected exercises, but with practice and practice and practice, all those different exercises connect. And then you become this phenomenal thing that can move and kick and punch and do everything without even thinking about it. And when I started to study Aikido, I went through the same process. You learn the individual techniques, and then at some point, the underlying operational system powers up, which really connects the dots. And at that point, the confidence really kicked in.
Okay, so would you say that in a way, that's why we have a grading system?
Yes.
To power you up to the level that you've been trained at and say, right, demonstrate everything that you've been taught over the last 3 months, all in one place in the next 10 minutes.
And I think that's why people sometimes struggle when they go from martial art to martial art, thinking that they are collecting techniques. And it doesn't help them because they never train up the fundamental operating system. What made someone like Muhammad Ali such a phenomenal boxer was because he had that operational system absolutely online. And if you came into collision with it, it's going to hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. And the interesting point you just made about the grading system was stepping up the challenge. And every time I took a grading, I was always nervous. And when I came off the grading and I felt I'd done well, I was happy. And I'm just wondering if actually confidence is the key to happiness.
I think can be important. Piers, what do you think?
I was going to go back and try and answer your question. And I'm not saying that Liz wasn't. I'm just saying to go back to your question because I'm intrigued by it. I think there's a spectrum, and you've got a line and you've got polarities. And I think at one end of that spectrum is maybe a path to peace and peacefulness. And at the other end of the spectrum, or somewhere on the spectrum, is arrogance. So, you know, that was all I was thinking.
Okay, so is your answer to my question peace?
For me, it's part of the process. And I'm hoping to avoid the arrogance bit.
Okay, I love your answer of peace, because I think that the more confident that you become, the more at ease you become with yourself and with the people around you and with the world at large, you don't feel the need to fight.
Exactly.
So you become naturally more peaceful. So I love that as an answer. Does anyone have another answer that they would like to offer? Linda.
Quentin?
Yeah, Linda first.
For me, for having developing confidence in a system, for understanding that it's a possible thing to learn, for me it helps develop patience and persistence. So I can know that I don't have this yet, but I don't feel like I'm never going to get it. This is terrible. You know, something's wrong. No, this is a system, and I can feel confident in it, even not being good at it. You know, whatever good at it is.
You're confident of growing into it. Yeah?
Yeah.
You're becoming
Yeah.
more
I
confident.
have confidence that it'll work out eventually.
Right. So let me ask you a question. Is it working out now?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm really saying is, what's at the end of the road, which we may never get to, but what's at the end of the road? And I like Pierre's answer of peace. Is there another one that people come up with?
Oh, Quentin?
Yeah.
Building on Pierce's comment about going through arrogance, okay, everything goes in a circle, doesn't it? And I can remember starting Aikido and building up that confidence. And then you get your black belt and you go through a few black belts. So you go through what I call the you think you're bloody wonderful phase, don't you? You know, do you know what I mean? And then you sort of go through that and come right back. And I've got back to the point, I feel like an ordinary human being amongst other human beings again. That's right back at the very beginning.
Beautifully said. And can I just park that, because I'm going to come back to it in a minute. Because we need to deal with arrogance and humility and how they fit in with confidence and how we stay on the right path as opposed to the wrong path. But let me ask you, well, what comes before confidence then?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking the group.
What comes? Okay,
Whatever answer you give is right for you. There's no rights or wrongs here. There might be ones that I enjoy more than others, but that's totally irrelevant.
I mean, personally, as I got competent at a skill, I became confident in my ability.
Right.
So competence, then confidence, and then from the confidence, personally, I got happiness.
Okay. So that's, again, it's a nice linear line forward. One thing leads to the other, leads to the other. What came before competence?
Incompetence?
Yes.
But true.
Fair enough.
You can't do something, you can do something.
And what was the result of incompetence? Don't just think about it martially. Just if you're incompetent, I mean, how does that make you feel?
I mean, we can think about it in terms of the mat. And yes, incompetence means you're not able to carry out the exercise. But in terms of the real world, you know, you crash your car, you walk into lampposts, you trip over on the street, you get into arguments down the pub. You know, that's incompetent in a way.
So do we tend to do things that we're incompetent at?
We tend to shy away from them.
We tend to shy away from them. And does that limit our lives then? It's a leading question. Of course it does. So the more we're incompetent at, the less we take on, the less there is to get the best out of life.
If we're conscious that we're incompetent, there are people in this world who are incompetent and completely unconscious of their incompetence.
Look, my Labour webinar is starting in 5 minutes. Don't get me started early on that one.
You don't need to mention names. I think we could name a few like that.
And they're all trumped up charges, though.
Very well done, Paul. You came back just in time.
I've been here. I've been listening.
Okay, so let me talk about humility then. So what does humility mean? Give me a definition for humility, and do you know the derivation?
Comes from the word earth.
Yes. So it does. It comes from a Latin word, humilus, which means of the earth, which you might translate as grounded, which I find fascinating, you know, because it's one of those core skills that we're trying to build. So what does humility mean in sort of more everyday language?
Feeling gratitude for discovering that you're wrong about something.
Okay, yeah. Anything else? I'll give you a couple of dictionary definitions then. The quality of not being proud because you're aware of your bad qualities. I didn't make these up, by the way. I looked them up in a dictionary. The feeling that you are of no special importance or better than others. I kind of relate a bit more to the second one than the first. The idea that, well, just because I can do this doesn't mean doesn't make me special. I'm just another human being. We all have different abilities in different places. Finn?
I think the counterexample can be illuminating in cases like this. I've met teachers who, because they were very good on the mats, felt that they were automatically very good at anything else they would turn their mind to, despite the fact they hadn't, well, clearly weren't. And that is the counterexample to humility. It's the arrogance of thinking I'm special. And it just charms your definition of humility as I'm not.
Piers suggested it was a fine line, and I think it is. Let me come to Finn, and then I come to Joanna. Finn.
Something important about the willingness to learn or to change. So the yin and the yang, the ability to redirect and to accept. Yeah. So it seems an important counter.
I agree.
Balance to shape.
I like that. To know that there's always more, and you're just on a path is, I think, important. Joanna.
I was thinking about humility. I don't know if this is, but you always says that on your articles, it's putting yourself in the other one position. So in the other one role, just like you become equal, because before becoming Aikido practitioners, senseis and whatever, we are human beings. Yeah. So how can we just relate to each other as equal? How can my sensei become equal to me to listen to what I'm saying, and I'm just become equal to my other partners or even to my sensei to know out of the mat, he's a human being. Yeah. He has his stories, but it's something just kind of trying to find this balance between one human being to another.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Quentin.
Let me come to Dimitra, then Liz, then I've got something to say. Dimitra.
Yes, I was thinking that also humility, talking about humility, that seeing the fact that every human being is really unique and is really special, then we can also look at humility in the way that recognizing one's being special, one's uniqueness, you are still humble, but recognizing your own speciality, your own strength. The one does not contradict the other. Recognizing your own abilities and your own strength and your own uniqueness in life and your own divinity, if you want to see it this way, does not necessarily implicate arrogance.
Sure. No, I mean, with the way you're...
Humility and recognizing your own uniqueness in the world, they can go together.
There's a beautiful point in there, which is that when you recognize the uniqueness in other people, you're being very humble and knowing that everybody has something to offer. Exactly. And when you recognize that you're unique and you have unique skills to offer, that's where you build confidence.
Yes, and others
are relationship there.
Yes, and others also are unique.
Yeah.
And so your uniqueness is no more than their uniqueness.
Exactly. Yeah. Liz. Quentin, no, you have to go in a minute.
Oh no, that is exactly what I was going to say. And we're all, once you recognise that everyone is special and unique, and as human beings, we can't all possibly be good at everything. We can't all know everything. So actually, as a species, we collectively rely on each other to know and be good at different things. And this is where, you know, the person, it's not just some Aikido teacher becomes so good at Aikido, they think they're expert on everything else. I've met that mentality in people who are expert at all sorts of things. And then what they don't recognise is that, yes, they're very good at what they're doing, and that's brilliant because that's their contribution to the world. But if they don't have the humility to recognise that other people have skills and knowledge that they don't have, then actually they make life very difficult for themselves, because the whole point is that we work very hard to understand and be good at some things, and then we contribute that and we help other people, and then we allow other people to help us. You know, when I needed, I've had lots of surgeries on my body for various things, cancer and hip and so on. There have been times in my life when I've been totally dependent on the expert skill of a surgeon for my life for my physical viability, for my health, thank God they've never let me down. I could never pretend to be as not to know what those surgeons know.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. So I'm just, while you're thinking, I'm thinking, how can we relate humility to you know, some of the core principles within Aikido, and how do we relate confidence? And it seems to me that when we're talking about humility, we're practicing being grounded, having a really clear, you know, we don't have our head in the clouds. We've got a clear sight that we're less than perfect ourselves, and so is everybody else, and we're all on a journey. And extending ki is a good one for confidence, being prepared to push ourselves out there and take it on. That's where we get our confidence from, and you have to practice those in a very balanced way, it seems to me. So maybe final question for that, because I think we've done pretty well, unless people want to open the discussion up in other ways, is to come back to Piers' point. How do we ensure that we engender both of those qualities? How do we make sure we don't fall into arrogance, that we practice for confidence and stay humble?
Making it an explicit part of your practice.
Yes.
Give us an example of how you do that, Brandon.
You set the expectation. That's one of the things we're here for. We're going to be practicing that. This is how we're going to be doing it. You outline it with exercises just like everything else. You role play it. You include the language of it. You draw direct somatic parallels between how you relate to your partner with humility when you get your turn to be the one who deploys the technique, and how it is a direct line from my gentleness with your body while being present and connected and centered that mirrors the practice of humility when you're talking about a psychological engagement.
Wonderful, thank you.
And if you're not doing it explicitly, you're not doing it.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything they want to add to that?
I think you've defined a research and development dojo instead of a top-down sensei teaches dojo, where everybody gets to contribute.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
You become what you practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I know of the teachers that I know on the mat that are here tonight, I'm pleased to say that every one of them that I've had experience of teaches in that way, which is quite gratifying. Perhaps that's why we're all together as a group. I don't know. But,
yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've loved the way this conversation has gone. I think we've covered it in a really rounded way, and I hope it's been insightful as to the bigger picture that Aikido can, as an art, can develop us as human beings. And that seems to me the whole point of what we're doing, really.
Mm-hmm.
We can't practice on the mat. So to do what we're doing tonight seems to me a wonderful practice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I've got you off on time, Liz, so that's good.
Hey.
So I'm going to thank you all for being here. Next week, we've got Linda Holliday joining us, and we're going to be talking about the practice of gratitude and what that has to do with Aikido. So I've got a few exciting things lined up, but that's next week's offering.
Okay.
Bye all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Quentin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Quentin. Thank you all. Very useful.
Hey, Brandon.
Thank you, Quentin.
Haven't
Thank
seen
you,
you in a while.
everyone.
Bye-bye.